Hello everyone and welcome to Zing This, Read This edition where we will be discussing The Umbrella Academy.
Yay.
I just want to point out that Ellie is the one that spearheaded this one.
Yes.
So you got me, Zinger.
And I'm Ellie.
And we have a very special guest joining us who insisted on being a part of the Umbrella Academy discussion.
Hi, I'm Phil Rood. I'm a cartoonist and I'm a podcast host with Blazing Caribou Studios. And I love the Umbrella Academy.
Sweet.
So I guess let's give kind of a background on who wrote this, because I think that's interesting on my end.
I have to admit that's what drew me to it. I was like, really? Let's try this. So it made me first read it.
Anyone is familiar with I think they've disbanded, but My Chemical Romance.
Mm-hmm.
Gerard Way,
Yep.
the lead singer, is the one who authored and kind of came up with...
Creator and writer.
Yeah, writer and creator of the Umbrella Academy, which is just interesting because he's not the only person in a band to come up with it, but this one I think is just interesting because it did reach to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually met Gerard Way once.
Nice. How'd you meet him?
Cool.
I actually, long story short, I'm going to shorten it down real quick. Warped Tour.
Okay.
Got backstage passes because of a horrible snafu with one of the people with me's tickets. Was standing around backstage, walking around because they gave out free waters.
Okay.
So it was really beneficial. And I was wearing some Adidas Samba shoes. And noticed the guy sitting there wearing the same shoes and a bulletproof vest. So I sat there and talked to him for 1 or 2 minutes about shoes. And then some chicks ran up, took a picture with him, and as we were walking off, the person with me went, "You do realize you're just talking to Gerard Way about shoes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was pretty cool."
That is awesome.
That is cool.
And by the way, the bulletproof vest was for part of their act. It was not. He was not wearing it as protection.
About getting shot. Yes.
I just wanted to make that clear real quick. But yeah, so
that did stand out a little bit as part of the story to me. I was just like, that seems like really odd concert wear, but you know.
Who wants to give us kind of a brief overview of what the Umbrella Academy is and the concept behind it?
Well, why don't we let our special guest do that?
Phil, would you want to do that for us?
Sure. I'll give the rundown. The rundown is basically I don't know what you'd call him, sort of this eccentric inventor, sort of adopts and mentors these gifted children, and
43 of them.
And they there's 33. He adopts 7.
He adopts 7. Mm-hmm.
There was 33 of them born at one instant, and he adopts 7 of them, and they have adventures as children, and then they disband, and then they come back together upon the mentor's death. The Monocle is the mentor.
Right.
And upon his death, they sort of reunite for the funeral, and that's when all of their old enemies sort of come out of hiding and start to bring about the end of the world, and they have to put aside all their personal differences to try to prevent that.
Which there are a lot.
There are quite a few. This is a giant dysfunctional family,
right?
In the Umbrella Academy.
Yes, definitely. And I love the 7. They're so unique. They have such quirky. It's such a quirky, steampunky kind of book, and I love it's so different, and it's not a copycat of your typical superheroes. So that's why I was really drawn into it.
Just real quick, I mean, I know we're not going to try to go beat by beat, but right. I'm kind of flipping through it right now. And did anyone else read the beginning, like, I guess, narrator in like in a like old timey?
Are you going to do a voice?
I'm sorry. To me, it sounded like. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Using methods undisclosed, he sought to track down and adopt as many of the children as he could.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know. It's just that fast talking, news.
Well, I didn't
newscast.
read it that way before, but I'm sure I will from now on.
There you go. It's just that one part. I was just
Thank you.
reading it, and it was one of those things. I was reading it in my head in that voice, and every now and then it would just I just say one of the lines out loud to myself and just giggle for some. I don't know why. It's just that the opening is narrated. And just the whole time I was reading it like a newscaster in my head. So I don't know. I was like, is that anyone else? It just felt right for the theme of the comic too. So that's the other thing is I felt like it felt perfectly right. It is very a steampunk aesthetic, which comes out I think more as it goes on, but also the artwork and stuff for My Chemical Romance and a lot of the way that they dress and the way that they presented themselves also is, I feel, very represented in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I mean, their musical style and everything, like, this is one of those things to where if you told me you could read this and play one of their albums at the same time, sort of, Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz sort of thing, and they match up, I would believe it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it would match up. So that's just something I just wanted to say as a fan of their music back in the day.
Right.
This was really cool to read because I could just imagine, some of their songs going along in the background of what I was reading.
Well, and I kind of wanted to skip back to the beginning again really quick.
Mm-hmm.
It sets up so weird. So, It's actually 43 amazing children is how they listed in the book. But
43 amazing children.
Yes, exactly. But they're like, there's a worldwide event.
There's a worldwide event.
I can't continue if you're going to...
I can't continue if you're going to keep doing that.
Well, but it's so weird because they're like, there's 43 amazing children born to women that previously had no signs of pregnancy. It's just so... Okay, so, and they don't really go into any more detail. They're like, this is how they were born, and have a nice day. Like, I just thought that was weird. And then when they're talking to, like you had mentioned, the monocle, he was trying to collect as many as he could, and he ends up getting his hands on 7. And when all the newscasters and everything ask him why
were you doing this, monocle?
Exactly. He says, basically, to save the world. And they're like, from what? And then he doesn't answer them. So it was just kind of cool the way it was. Oh, are you going to bring up more?
No. Keep going. I need to
Oh, no. I'm done on that part. No, I was just saying, it really drew me in because it just was so kooky the way it started.
I think my entire contribution to this episode is going to be me doing impressions.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, I thought, too, that we should kind of, here, you'll have a chance to do your voice again.
Well, I actually found the quote he says for...
Okay, so go ahead.
So
here, I'll be the reporter. All right, you ready?
All right.
Okay. So, they wouldn't have called him the monocle. So, Reginald Hargreaves, why are you collecting all these children?
Well, to save the world, of course. Of course, save the world. I don't know.
All the voices that I've read this book in so many times have all been elbowed out of my head now. Morgan Freeman is replaced with old-timey newscaster.
This is how we review comic books.
Well, my dear boy, this is how you're supposed to read these books.
Funny books. Ellie, I want to go back. I mean, you talk about the beginning, the intro to this comic. I mean, the very first page is a splash page of a gigantic pro wrestler doing an elbow drop on a space squid. So, I mean, right from the very beginning, you're going, what the hell is this book I'm reading? And then everything after that is sort of every panel is almost disconnected from the one before. So it really keeps you off balance.
Oh, yeah.
And sort of the mystery is there from the very beginning. It's I think one of the things, I'm the same way. I think that's part of what drew me into going, yeah, I gotta take this home and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I have to see where this is going to go. And I actually, originally, when it first came out, I actually collected each of the single issues.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was one of those people where I didn't have the luxury of being able to just rail through it in a paperback trade form. I actually had to wait until the next issue came out, so it was very torturous for me.
Well, another thing that's kind of to go with the theme of nothing is really explained,
Right.
per se. They're explaining how, Reginald is a world-renowned
Inventor.
gold
Yes.
medalist, Nobel Prize winner, space alien, enthusiast. It's
What?
yeah, exactly. It's this. I'm sorry. Did you just say space alien and moving along?
And now, so if we want to dive into just an overview of like their very first villain that these children fight.
Yeah. Let's talk about that villain
So-
real quick.
So if we're going to talk about weird wrestlers squishing tentacle people and all that stuff, let's talk about the first villain that these children face. It's a deadly Eiffel Tower, and it's piloted by a zombie robot, Gustav Eiffel.
Isn't he like the architect of it too?
I would imagine that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because one of them can like contact the dead
Yes.
or spirits, and he's like, I can't because he's
The seance.
Yeah, and I'm like, once again, I'm reading this going, did I miss a page?
Right.
What?
Yeah. There's a lot of that with this book.
I'm interested, so I keep turning.
Right. And I just thought that was funny, and we can talk more about the villain in more detail if you want. But like after they defeat him and everything's good, they're like, okay, let's go get some ice cream.
That's
and
the best. That is the best panel. I swear. They get the key to the city
Yes.
and ice cream. It's so funny.
Well, what more could are they about 10 at the time, I think, or were they? I can't remember how old they were at that time.
They're definitely young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're kids.
Yeah.
10
Hold on,
yeah,
wait,
10 years later is
Yeah.
what it says.
Yeah. So.
And it gives out arbitrary times too every now and then.
Well, it does go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I know later on it's a
Yeah.
little bit more important, but in the beginning it's kind of like, why are they giving out times? But yeah, and then from there it just jumps to 20 years later on the moon.
Well, because they kind of.
Oh, sorry. I know that's not the narrator saying it, but
Well, yeah, it's just because they have all these adventures together, and then they eventually disband.
20 years later,
Yeah.
the moon.
So why did they come back 20 years later?
Well, I think it's interesting that you come back to a gorilla man. Which
Right.
I'm like, okay, once again, I still don't have any questions answered, but I'm getting more, and I want to keep reading. So that is number one, who now goes by Space Boy,
Correct.
and
Yep.
I just
And
the
that's
other
Luther. That's Luther Hargraves.
the other thing I got from this is, and once again, maybe I'm just totally rewriting how people imagine this with the voices you read them with and everything. But did anyone else get kind of a Johnny Quest-esque?
Oh, with Space
yeah,
Boy?
absolutely.
Well, that
Oh.
during the intervening time that there was this whole Johnny Quest-like adventure thing that happened that we just weren't privy to during this time.
Right.
I mean, that's
I get a X-Men vibe from this.
I do from the
this
kids
from
definitely.
this entire book. But Johnny Quest, that's a really interesting parallel because, yeah, I always felt like Johnny's dad was, not really interested in Johnny very much. And
Right.
sort of, I think that's really what's interesting about, to take it back to this prologue, the Eiffel Tower scene is that sets up that this is a dysfunctional family.
Oh, yes.
From the time they're kids, he's the father figure who doesn't let them call him dad. He's very distant. He's very much exploiting these children. And then it is super jarring to go 20 years and, oh yeah, he has a gorilla body now and he lives on the moon. And you just know things have gone horribly wrong, but you don't know how. It's a great storytelling device to keep all that mystery
Right.
wrapped up. So the reader is, again, I just feel off balance reading this book the first time. So it's really effective that way.
Another thing is it then jumps again to where one of the kids can actually manipulate and travel through time.
Yes, the boy.
And
Number 5.
I'm getting a Kids Next Door vibe from this too now. No one remembers Kids Next Door? Codename Kids Next Door?
Yes, the cartoon.
Okay,
They're
I'm
in, like the tree houses and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, cool. I'm just making sure I wasn't going insane and everyone's going to be like, what are you talking about?
No.
It took me a minute. I'm a little bit older than you, so
No, I just, it's just with the numbering and everything, but they also go by their code names too.
Correct.
But they definitely don't, well, Space Boy doesn't like going by any other name but Space Boy, because he mentions there's a robot that he's going to reprogram him when he gets back, which I was like, that's odd.
And we don't want to forget to mention that it's not, his head wasn't transplanted onto any gorilla. It was a Martian gorilla.
Once again,
So
more questions
so
than
just
answers.
make sure that everybody understands that when he's up on the moon, his body is fine without a spacesuit. It actually can withhold.
Well, he still needs something on his head.
But yes, but his head still needs to be protected by a helmet. So yes.
No offense to Gerard Way or anything with the writing of this. I feel like there was I don't want to say there was a wall full of like little snippets of stuff and string to each of them. So I'm going to say there was a whiteboard with just like
Yes.
you know, in school when you had to write the idea bubble and then you had to
Yes.
put the little things coming off of it.
Is that what you think he was doing?
He just wrote down just different things, just gorillas from space, and then circled it, and then went, and then just he just seems to have been going everywhere, which is fine because it creates intrigue into the comic.
Right.
But at the same time, you're sitting there the whole time going, what is going on?
Well, I feel like, you know how, like, somebody's doing something,
Mm-hmm.
and they're, you know, oh, I'm reading this section, this and that. Squirrel! And then you go do something else. Like, that's what I feel
And
like
then
he
you're
was
like, what was I writing? Space, gorilla? Yeah,
I think there were darts involved in this somewhere. Like, just, what do we got? What do we got? Gorilla, helmet, moon. Okay, all right, I can work with this. And then he just went and sat down and pounded it out on the typewriter.
Well, do we want to dive into some more of the
Yeah,
characters?
I was about to say, let's talk about, because Phil pointed out, the X-Men vibe from this.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So I guess we've only kind of explained vaguely 2 of the kids' three of them. So let's kind of discuss the other ones.
Well, we did Space Boy. Mm-hmm.
What's his power?
Well, I mean, he's super strength.
He's strong, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the leader.
Yeah. He's the Red Ranger.
He's Leonardo.
Oh, we're just going to keep making stuff.
Phil, come on.
Your turn.
He is Scott Summers.
Ah.
Oh, wow. That was in tune and everything.
I know.
Good job.
You guys have been together for a while.
Apparently.
You're in the same key.
So long. Okay. Well, the Kraken. Somebody want to stab at the Kraken? This is Diego, number 2.
I would say the Kraken is, I'm sticking with the X-Men vibe. He's the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Yeah, I
more
can
of
see
the
that.
loose cannon kind of mercenary kind of killer.
He's the Raphael. Come on, Allie. We started this game.
No. I know. What Ranger is he? It's the... I don't know. Which color Ranger are we going with this one? The Green Ranger? Okay.
say-
Before it turns white?
Yeah.
Just the Green Ranger.
Maybe not
take
the
your word
leader.
for it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But before he becomes the leader, when he's that rebel without a cause.
Well, I think it's neat that he can hold his breath indefinitely.
Hence the crack.
Right. Exactly. I think it's cool though. Like, I don't know where that's gonna come in handy. I guess if you're stuck
I mean, you
on
can
underwater.
sit underwater for
Yeah.
ample amount of time.
If you want to hide from people, I guess it's good.
And then we also, I just want to mention real quick, we also have the boy
Yes, that's
one
the
who can-
time travel.
who can time travel.
And he doesn't
Marty
age.
McFly.
The poor thing.
Marty McFly.
Yes.
No one's got any other time travelers?
Doctor Who.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, good one.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Bruce Willis from Looper.
Or Bruce Willis from 12
Nice.
Monkeys.
Oh.
Or Bruce Willis from The Kid.
I was going to say
gosh.
trifecta from BBM. Right?
Someone's been listening to
Someone's
Brokeback
been
Mountain.
watching our Twitter feed.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I feel bad for him because he's aged. Like, he was stuck in time for 50 years. And this poor guy finally figures out how to come back, and he's in a 10-year-old body. And he's stuck that way. So
he's kind of the most interesting kid in here. He has the weirdest arc and the weirdest story fragments. I think he's super interesting because we don't get his full story
right.
in this volume.
Well, I feel that that's something you kind of got to do with a character who can travel through time and do what he does. Because if it's fully explained, oh my gosh, I'm going to get into a time discussion.
Oh, no, not today.
No, I can't. Okay, just quick with the laws. I guess it's one of those things. The future is malleable to a certain extent. So I mean, what he could have lived through could be different and can be changed per se. But like I said, I'm not going to get into a huge time travel discussion today. Another day.
Well, and he also learns how to do micro jumps.
Yeah.
So that is cool.
But that would be a weird power to kind of learn how to use.
Yeah.
Like, how would you use it? I mean, is it something that would you even recognize you're using it, to be honest? Unless you jumped, like, really far?
I guess.
'Cause, I mean, if let's say this will be coming out on Saturday, so let's say on Saturday, it's next Tuesday instead. If I don't check the date, how do I know? I'm just saying, it's just...
I lose track of days all the time. I might have this power
Yes.
and not even know it.
You micro jump as well.
What did I come into this room for? Where am
Why
I?
am I here?
What day is it?
Who are you
Do I
people?
work today?
Squirrel.
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of point that out, that the time travel and manipulating time is always a weird power to have.
Yes.
So it's just one of those questions I've had. I'm like, how do you know you're doing it? Or it's something you may not even know you're doing, like he might not have for 50 years.
Right.
But anyways, moving on to some other characters.
Okay. Let's talk about Seance.
Okay.
Well, he is your typical teenage Hot Topic kid.
So the rest of them are not.
Well, but he's really bad.
Okay.
He's
Seance is kind of like my 17-year-old son.
Okay.
He's a lot of black,
Yes.
real moody.
Yes. And he levitation, telekinesis, very morbid. He makes a joke about he looks like death, and he's like, "Oh, that's appropriate," because we're here because our dad died, and
But yeah,
we might not mention that.
his first line as an adult is when he comes back and he says, "You know what I love about funerals? Everything I own is black." And he's just, he's like the goth kid, He's kind of weird, but he's not a super downer. He's kind of a smart aleck and kind of just takes little jabs at everybody around him. I think he's kind of a fun character.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like he sets out to be the downer, but he's more fun than he wants to be.
well, and you know how we were talking about, like, when you said the whole, like, just throw stuff at dartboards and this is what we figured out. Does anybody remember the little weird thing about Seance, that he can only use his powers when he's not wearing shoes?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So it's like,
Yeah, it's a really random restriction to put on having powers.
so I just thought that was so funny. We have this character and he's interesting and all that stuff, and they're like, oh, by the way, though, he can't do all that stuff if he has shoes on.
If he has shoes on?
Yes. So I thought
What
that was
about Crocs? What if he's wearing Crocs?
Flip-flops. These are the questions
partial powers.
Yeah, these are the questions we need answered.
That is true.
Another character. I mean, it's not one of the kids, but I just wanted to point out there is the chimpanzee.
Yeah, Dr. Pogo.
The talking chimpanzee, by the way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out that that's thrown in there as well. So you have two characters that are apes, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ape bodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to throw that one out.
Two ape characters and also two short of stature characters, because Pogo and the boy kind of pal around together through part of this too.
Good point.
And then there's the rumor, who is Allison, and she can alter reality by lying.
Scarlet Witch.
Doesn't have to lie, but yes.
You're not going to try to do a character that can manipulate reality?
Oh my gosh! You should have warned me.
Nah, this is on the spot stuff. I can hear Phil typing.
Doctor Strange?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Why not? That definitely does work.
That does
You
work.
manipulate an individual's reality, but she can manipulate everyone's reality.
She manipulates the actual fabric of reality. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And
she has a cybernetic left hand, so that's cool too.
because reasons?
Dr. Terminal ate it.
Once again, tons of stuff that just it's one of those things. He created such an interesting world that you want to know more about.
Right.
And that's why I think, I'm not saying that the story's bad in any way, shape, or form without that stuff, but it created this nice little lived-in universe, which is very unique and something that's very, I guess, it's a very bold move to do it. If you want my opinion on that, it's a very bold move to sit there and kind of do this assumed history without giving really anything but passing references to why things are the way they are. I mean, anyone else think?
Well, let me weigh in on that. And remember Star Wars before the prequels came out. You got a man who was kept alive by this black suit with mechanical apparatus all over it. You didn't know exactly how he got in there. You got mentions of the Clone Wars. You got all these kind of... You got the endpoints of a history of these characters, and you didn't know how they got there, and I think it made it more interesting. And I kind of see that the same way here. I kind of feel like not knowing all the details, you just know that they had a rough road to get to where they disbanded, and now they're back trying to deal with it all. I feel like it's really random, but for me it works.
Right.
I can definitely see that. But then by that logic, is Gerard Way in like 20 years going to go back and make a prequel comic
let's
series?
hope not.
Comic series where he just ruins everything and doesn't really fill in a lot of the plot hole. I mean, creates more plot holes than fixes. I'm sorry, this isn't our Star Wars discussion. I'll say.
Well, I mean, there are other volumes after this that do give you more insight, but yes.
I just read this one.
I know. I'm just we're not discussing the other ones, Dallas and other stuff, but I'm just saying, like, there's more stuff, but
I had to stop myself from reading Dallas right after this because I wanted to keep the discussion to this, and I knew I'd lose track of.
All
start running into each other if I read them both. I usually read them back to back when I do it, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, and we haven't talked about horror. Horror basically has monsters from other dimensions under his skin. Most notably, in some of the panels, you see the tentacles where they like come from his belly. Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
Just go on. Continue explaining him. I'll say my piece when you're done.
So everybody out there that's listening, he was like throwing his hands up in the air and biting his lip and excited. I don't know what's going on. Oh no.
You figured it out.
I think I did. Okay. If anybody else can figure it out,
tweet at us right now.
Let us know. But yeah, so that's such an interesting. I think that's cool. I feel like that would hurt. Like that has to be quite a struggle.
It seems like it would, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, you have monsters inside of you. Yeah, that seems pretty horrible. He's the one I lose track of all the time because he's not in this very much.
Right.
So
You kind of get the sense that his death is what disbanded the Umbrella Academy.
Right. The guilt.
Yeah, something, the fallout from whatever happened that killed him. But he's the one I always end up sitting there counting, and I always forget him because
Where's the
he's just a
seventh one?
statue in front of the mansion.
Right,
through most of
exactly.
it. But yeah, and the panels that he's in as a kid, he looks really cool.
Yes. Yes.
And it kind of it kind of bums me out that he wasn't in this as an adult because it's someone I would want to see further developed. You know what I mean? Like we see all of them as children, and then we see them down the road carrying all the baggage, and it's like, what would someone who was in monster pain all the time be like as an adult? You know?
Well, my reason I was excited is because since we've been referencing other characters that are the kind of similar to them, since we've talked about the X-Men, why not Maggot?
Ew.
And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can do one of two things. Either Google Maggot from the X-Men, or go back and listen to our Weird Stuff in Comics episode where Ellie explains the disgusting powers behind that character.
I did. I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, I remembered.
Yes. Good job. I know. I always find the weird ones.
There's one more kid.
Yes.
Who
yes.
doesn't have any powers.
So you think.
Dun dun dun.
She is very gifted musically.
Well, that's a power.
Yeah.
I can't music.
And her code name is fantastic. I love it. Well, it's not fantastic.
I was about to say,
Sorry.
that's not her code name.
No. It's really cool. So, White Violin.
The White Violin.
Yes.
So I guess, I mean, we're not trying to go beat by beat with the story.
No, we're just
but
going over the
here's the
characters.
problem. Explaining her might be a spoiler thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick poll real quick. Anyone want to explain it or put up a spoiler warning? Or just leave it for the readers.
Well, I think we can do it. Basically, she is pretty much, she's the most powerful one of all of them. And when she was younger, she was drugged, basically, to suppress her powers. And something happens. So if we want to do a spoiler, we can say that later. But basically, something happens that unleashes her full potential. And it has to do with music. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in, but...
She's Jean Grey in the Phoenix.
Ooh,
okay.
nice.
Look at you.
She's she's been brought up to believe that she does not have any power, but the reality is that if she was exploited by the wrong people, it would be dangerous for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how to get into it. I may have already given too much away, but
it's not
tough
really.
to talk about her. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Her specifically
Yes.
is she's sort of the hinge point of this whole story. So, without giving too much away, that's my analog for her. Like I said, I see the X-Men in this a lot.
Yeah. As pointed
where-
out by our comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I feel like they take it like if the X-Men were real, this is a little more realistic. They would be a dysfunctional family.
More dysfunctional.
In reality, they would be a little more exploited as opposed to just having a kindly old mentor. But I don't feel like it. I think what I like about this comic so much is instead of taking the Watchmen track of saying this is what it would be like realistically and being really dark, this comic still has fun. You know,
Yeah.
like there's an element of really having a good time through all of this. It's dark and it's just a really good balance of fun comic book kind of plots and action and sort of a serious storyline with some stakes to it.
Awesome. I think that's a very actually apt description of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna avoid any discussion more about the story or about the characters because I feel we're gonna start to get into spoiler territory.
Well, yeah.
And we want you guys to go out and read this if it is something you're interested in. We don't want to, I guess. Ellie, go ahead. You're waving.
I just wanted to say that we hope that our kind of description of the setup and just how awesome the characters are will intrigue you enough to want to read it and, want to know what is it that happens. Because, most stories have
we've explained that. It doesn't explain stuff, but it does.
Yeah. and most good stories, usually there's some event that happens that has people come together and, there's an ending. So we want you to be able to experience it on your own, and then please let us know what you thought, because it's really, I love talking to people that have read it and see what their opinions are.
Awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Well, definitely tweet at us or email us, and we'll read it on a later episode of the podcast. So definitely let us know. But you want to talk about some of the influences he had behind this, Ellie?
Yeah. Well, a huge influence for this particular series is Grant Morrison and how he did Doom Patrol.
Not surprised.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. And then I'm not familiar with this, but maybe one of you two are. I'm going to say the name wrong. I apologize. Pat McGowan or McGowan of Zombie World Champion of the Worm.
What?
Well,
new one to me.
Yeah, so I've never, but that apparently was another influence besides Doom Patrol with Grant Morrison.
Huh.
Yeah.
Might need to check that out
I
now
know.
to see where we got some.
See if we can see some similarities.
But there's actually, ironically, there's been some recent developments behind this I guess intellectual property, more so the Umbrella Academy as a whole recently has kind of been optioned for a possible Netflix show. So, and I mean, when I say recently, I mean some of that information was coming out the day we're recording this. So that's pretty ironic.
Well, it originally was slated as a movie.
Yes, a long time
Yeah.
ago, but the Netflix thing is a very recent development.
Right.
So, what do you guys? I mean, this is one. Okay. I don't know if I should have pointed this out earlier. This is a comic that I was not familiar. I was familiar with that he wrote a comic, but I never read it until you chose it as our read this.
Right.
So you two are a little bit more familiar with this beforehand. So I'll let you guys sort of start with what do you think about the possibility of it becoming something that you are going to be able to watch on the screen. And I don't know if they've specified whether this is supposed to be live action or an animated. So is that something?
I feel it has to be animated.
Has to be animated?
Yes. Because, yes, it, obviously with technology and special effects and blah, 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 it could be either way. But just the way it was drawn, I'd love to see that in motion. Like, I love the art style tremendously.
That's a good point, and
I would too.
I'm sorry, I actually meant to ask you, Phil, about that. About I mean, you draw and everything. What was your opinion on the art style of this?
I love the art style. I think that's what caught my eye and got me to take this off the shelf in the first place. It's very much. I get a big I always stumble on his name. Mike Mignola.
Oh my gosh, you're messing me up.
From Hellboy.
Yes.
I
can see that.
The big blocky shapes, the kind of simple line, the high contrast. It's a beautifully drawn, cartoony style. Gabriel Ba. If I'm screwing up that accent mark, I apologize. But yeah, his art is amazing in this series. So yeah, if I could see it animated in that style, I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with a Mignola property called The Amazing Screw-On Head.
Oh.
I've heard of that.
it was a short story that he wrote and drew the comic for, and I think it was Sci-Fi Network did a pilot, an animated pilot, and it was drawn in a very Mignola kind of style. It didn't pick it up. I have the DVD of the pilot. I watch it at least once a year because it's hilarious and awesome. But to see Mignola's style, which I think is very much Gabriel Ba's style in this book anyway, to see it brought to life is incredible, and it looks really cool. And if I could see this aesthetic carried over and put in motion, I would be all for that.
Cool. Yeah. Like I said, it's not that they couldn't do it live action, but I think it would be best done as an animated series. I would absolutely love that. What do you think, Zenger?
Would you like it to follow the storyline in the comics, or have its own sort of thing, or possibly fill in gaps? I'm just asking if you would like it as a faithful interpretation.
Well, there's so much that they don't give you because of those big, like, they basically say...
So you'd like a fill in the gap, possibly.
It would be cool to start, like, they have to start it, I think, like, from the beginning. But then they could, have a lot more material if they did some of the fill-in stuff. I don't think it has to necessarily stick true to the original, no.
I'd like it to hit the high points. I think it has to. I think it has to follow the high points of like, they were child heroes, and Hargreaves died, and they reunited,
right?
And they have to get the characters right. But after that, I think jumping from one medium to another gives you some leeway on what you want to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We talked about on Brokeback Mountain. We talked about American Gods. We just watched that, and that's a big departure from the book, but it's still hitting most of the high points that it needs to hit, and it's nailing most of the characters. So we give it some wiggle room. We're not sitting there with the book hovering over them, going, oh, this isn't the way it is in the book. You guys strayed too much. You don't need to be a book Nazi about it, and you can just sort of enjoy a different interpretation of it.
Awesome. I'm definitely in agreement with both of you on that. I'm just excited that it is Netflix picked up. No offense to any other networks or anything, but Netflix seems to do a really good job. Plus, another benefit is everything comes out at once. So you could technically marathon the entire first season or first series right off the bat. So I just love that they do that, and I think that might possibly be a future for mediums, is to do it like that, to where you can kind of watch everything in one go. I actually personally kind of prefer that for some shows, especially serialized ones, where it's a lot easier to follow it than to have to watch 1 week to the next week to the next week, to where you might miss something here and there or forget about something. I'm going to say, I wasn't familiar with this beforehand, as I pointed out earlier, but this would definitely be a recommend for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure your guys' opinion is going to be the same. It's something I feel the best description of it would be, it's something similar, but yet different enough that it's worth checking out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, I can't recommend enough just how beautifully chaotic this series is, and I've read it so many times, and I still seem to pick out little teeny things that I missed the last time I read it. So it's always new for me. I love it.
Awesome. Phil, do you have any last?
Beautifully chaotic is a great description of this. It really is. Like, there's a lot going on in here. I totally recommend this. And if there's one benefit, I don't get too hung up and too psyched about comic book adaptations, but I think the big benefit of this is it would turn more people onto this comic. I love that you guys do this every month, and you champion comics like this and like Copperhead and some smaller books that need more attention. So this is one of these that I'm glad you guys are spotlighting. I'm glad Netflix is giving it some attention. I'd like to see more people pick this up. If I know people who are getting into reading graphic novels and comics for the first time, they don't want superhero stuff, this is one of those books that I always point them towards.
Yeah.
I say, go check out Umbrella Academy. It's really fun. It's adventure. It's insane, but it's just really cool. It's written by a rock star, and it's not a...
How cool what can be cooler than that?
Right. It's not a rock star cashing in on his name. This guy had a story to tell, and it's really well told. So, you can't bash him and go, oh, he's just a rock star doing a pet project because he's a rock star. But no, he really nails it. And this is one of my favorite comics. I totally recommend this.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us today discussing Umbrella Academy. Thank you once again for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you.
And if you would like to plug, where people can find you on the internet and everything, and then we'll do our little wrap up.
My hub is philrood.com, philrood.com, and that's my blog. I put my new drawings up there. I have links to my store, links to my social media. I'm at Phil Rood on Twitter, at Phil Rood75 on Instagram, and I host 2 shows with Blazing Caribou Studios. Your former guest, Carrie Sims, is on both of them. We do a show called Brokebot Mountain with David Luzader, where we talk about science fiction. A lot of it's art about AI and robots. Lately, we've been on a time travel kick. We're kind of all over the map, but we like to just give an overview of sci-fi in general. It started out as a Westworld podcast, and it kind of spun out from there. And the other one we do is called Sketching Comedy. We do it Wednesday nights on YouTube Live, and we highlight either a artist or a comedian, and we talk about them and kind of give a rundown of their careers. And while we do that, Imran Javed and I we're both on screen drawing as we talk. And at the end of the show, we each have a drawing that goes out to our Patreon, and it's just a really fun. I almost don't think of it as a show. I think of it as like hanging out with my friends and talking while I draw on Wednesday night. So that's really cool. We recently were talking about David Peterson from Mouse Guard.
Oh yeah,
and he saw that we were talking about him, and he came into the chat room, and we brought him on the show, and he talked to us for like an hour.
That is
really cool.
Awesome.
It was incredible. He was a super, super nice guy, super cool guy to talk to about cartooning and how he broke in his career. Just really great show. And that kind of fun stuff is just mind blowing when it just, we're just hanging out and we end up talking not about the guy, we end up talking to the guy. So that's Sketching Comedy, and you can get both of those through blazingcariboustudios.com.
Awesome. All right, Ellie, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What are some of the best ways to find us if you need to find us on the internet?
SoundCloud.
You can also find us on Stitcher, Google Play, and Tuned In. You can also go to iTunes. And what do you do if you listen to us on iTunes?
Give us a 5-star review.
Yes, sirree. And you can also go to Facebook.com and search
Zing This.
And join a little fan page there. You can also tweet at us on Twitter.
At Zing This.
If you want to check out some stuff on Instagram, it is at Zing This Podcast. If you want to watch us play some games and give our first impressions of any movies we saw, because that's kind of our new thing now.
Yes. We watch a movie in the theater, and then we come home and play video games and tell you about it.
With our first impressions. Now, of course, we'll do a full podcast about it later, but yeah.
And you'll go to at twitch.tv/zingthis.
If you want to help support the podcast, which we do have some new supporters, but that will be on Monday's show. We will discuss that.
Yeah.
It is patreon.com/ZingThis. You want to find us on YouTube, it's just search Zing This. And make sure to subscribe. If we get to 100 subscribers, then it will be youtube.com/ZingThis. So that will help us.
Yeah, and we really need to stop being lazy.
I'll get to them. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And finally, email if you want to email us directly.
zingthis@gmail.com.
Our sound guy is Aaron. Check him out.
Yes.
And finally, DJ Golden Boy.
89.
Play us out. Oh, and real quick before we're actually gone, another hint at what our episode or what our watch this will be this month. You should definitely bring a towel when you listen. Don't forget to bring a towel.